Hello, everyone. Welcome to Disability Voices United SDP Connect. My name is Christiana Morales. I'm the Director of Self-Determination Program here at DVU. We're doing open forum tonight, which is always fun. So, we're here. Bring your questions. We'll have lots of questions in the chat. The way we do it is you can type your questions in the chat, or you can raise your hand. I'll read out the questions, and we will alternate between the two. But before we start with questions, we have a few announcements. So I wanted to start by introducing our own Darlene Hansen.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm Darlene Hansen, and I am with the empowerment team. And I'm here today to talk to you about let you know that we have the Self-Advocate Speakers Training, Section 3. This is the third time we're going to be doing it, is starting in November, mid-November. So applications are open right now, and I think Michaela probably will put the application link in the chat for us all. But we hope that if you are a self-advocate, or if you know of self-advocates who are interested in developing and practicing, maybe seeing if it's something they're interested in self-advocacy, then this is the opportunity that we create for you guys. What we work on is creating and getting comfortable with and writing and tweaking, because we all do this, our elevator pitch. And with that elevator pitch, then you as self-advocates can go out and tell your stories and do it in a professional way. So if you're interested, or if you know someone that's interested, let them know and share this link. We hope to see you there. Oh, wait, I should tell you guys, it's going to be on Thursdays. It's going to be on Thursdays in November from 3 to 4:30, I believe, if I'm right. I have so many numbers in my head. 3 to 4:30 in November on Thursdays. Okay, thanks.
Help if I unmute. Thanks, Darlene. Gilda, I want to introduce Gilda Giron I say it wrong every time. Gilda Giron from Disability Voices United.
Hello, thank you, Christiana. Well, I'm really excited because we're hosting our equity conference on November 8th at the Los Angeles Endowment Center, and I want to share with everyone here at SDP Connect about this important event, and I'm really excited about it. It's coming up in 1 month. This event, this conference is your chance to have your voices heard, and I really would love for all of our DVU community to come out and be a part of it. The most important part, I would say, about our equity conference is the breakout sessions where we will hear directly from you. And again, it's not just about being heard, it's about taking action, which is what our equity conference will do. Because we're going to be using your input to shape a report that guides the initiatives that Disability Voices United will prioritize, and the recommendations we will be making to state leaders. So this is this is an opportunity to make real change that starts with your voice. So I really, really would love for everyone to be there. It is important to hear from different people based on different areas of California and different backgrounds. And we are hosting this equity conference to ensure that all your voices are heard, and it's going to really help shape our future initiatives. And our equity conference starts with a keynote addressing key issues around disabilities. And then it's going to be followed by a panel of self-advocates, family advocates, bringing the community in the IDD space coming together. So IDD is intellectual and developmental disabilities. And then we're going to have a second panel of experts discussing what we still need to learn. And the most important part that I want to share with everyone is our breakout sessions, where you'll be a part of a discussion on making a real change. And a report based on these sessions will be published, and it's going to be guiding recommendations to state leaders in California in the education and other areas to help shape policies that we're going to be prioritizing. And so we've actually come out with our agenda, and we have great panel. And if you follow DVU, you've received emails about this, but we have a panel called We Know What We Know. And this is the panel of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities and families. And we have Amina Abdul Hakim, an SCP independent facilitator. She's also part of the Inland Regional Center Local Volunteer Advisory Committee, and she's also part of our ambassador program at DVU. We're going to have Kyung Shul Choi, who's the founder of the Korean SCP Network. She's also a parent. We're going to have Julie Deep, who's the founder and president of OC Autism Foundation, who's also a self-advocate and a parent. We're going to have Elizabeth Gomez, director of Integrated Community Collaborative and a parent, and also part of the Self-Determination Advisory Committee. And we're going to have Chris Libertis, who's a parent, who has experience around the crisis intervention, and Oscar Mercado, who's communications and outreach manager for Integrated Community Collaborative and is also a self-advocate. And then we're going to have a panel of we know we don't know everything, and this is going to be advocates and researchers. And on that panel, we have Brian Capro, who's a senior staff attorney of Children's Rights Project Public Counsel and is also a sibling. We have Victor Duran, who's the director of the Master Plan on Developmental Services. We're going to have Vivian Hahn, who's the senior policy attorney in the IDD practice group for Disability Rights of California, and who's also a sibling. And then Allison Morantz, who's the director of Stanford Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Law and Policy Project, and who's also a parent. So, and then we're going to have, at the breakout sessions that we're going to be focusing on 6 different areas. So we're going to have primary and preventative health care and health and dental care. And then we're going to have one on regional centers, one on education, one on mental health crisis intervention supports, and immigration and language access, and diagnosis and early intervention. And all of our breakout sessions are going to be led with facilitators who have an understanding of these topic areas, and all of them are involved in the disability community, either as a self-advocate, family advocate, professional, or all 3. And we're going to be awarding, at lunch, we're going to have an award ceremony where we're going to be presenting Dr. Mark Galley, former Secretary of California Health and Human Services Agency. And in the final session, we're going to have an equity solutions reality check where we're going to be hearing kind of like a speed round like we did at the self-determination program. So and this conference is in person. It's only in person, and it's at the California Los Angeles Endowment Center. And I don't know if they shared any information in the chat already. If not, I will put it in the chat. Oh yes, I see that there's a agenda. But thank you, Keely. So I look forward to seeing you all there. We're going to have a Korean interpretation. We're going to have Spanish interpretation at the event. So yes, thank you, Christiana.
Thanks, Gilla. I can't wait. It's going to be so great. And I love seeing everybody in person. So it is a great opportunity to come meet DVU staff in person. We'll all be there. It's an all hands on deck. So you'll see everyone there. And so up next is I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to make sure.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here. You can take a break.
So we are having a celebration here at DVU because if you haven't heard already, AB 1147 was signed by the governor. Woot, woot. And we want to say thank you so much to everybody who called and sent in letters and emails and participated all along. This was a very hard slog, and you guys did it. And so, yay! So, celebration day. We're going to talk a little bit more. Judy is on the road. She's going to be getting to where she's going to land in a minute, and she'll talk a little bit more about what this means, what's going to happen next. So we'll get to that in a minute. Then on the boo side, not so happy news, SB 1281 got vetoed. It did not get passed. Boo. But that doesn't mean we're done, and it doesn't mean game over. So we'll talk a little bit more about that and what that means and what the next steps are. So little celebration here. We did have a question in the chat that I wanted to make sure everybody knew. Laxmi asked at 4:33, how much does the cost for the training? She was asking about the self-advocates speakers bureau training. It does not cost anything. It is free. So I thought that was a great question in the chat. We want to make sure everyone heard. So as we said, today is open topic. So if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand, put your questions in chat, and we can just start kind of going over things. I did have uh, some other topics that I did want to talk. Oopsie. Hold on. The party wants to go on. I have some other things that we did want to talk about too. Hanny has her hand up. Go ahead and unmute. Oh, are you having problems unmuting? Oh, there you go.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Hi, I just have quick question. My child is over 18 years old and he have so much anxiety. So the more older now, I just want to know, he has been in regional system, regional center consumer since 10 years old. But now, can regional center exit him if he doesn't have any services?
So are you asking if he can go into self-determination program if he doesn't have any
Not yet.
skills?
We're still not into self-determination, still waiting for independent facilitator.
Okay.
But right now, still in traditional. However, the regional center keep telling us if the child doesn't have any services, it means that the child doesn't need anything. And regional center planning to exit him from the system. Can they do that without parent input?
No, so they cannot do it. So in order to exit or to change any types of services, they would have to provide a notice of action to you. So I would actually go to them and say, nope, there are services that we require, and start talking to them, because you can even start your services in traditional system before you transfer to self-determination, because that process can take some time. So call a meeting, say we have unmet needs. Here are the things that we want to start looking at and start getting, right? So start
Yeah.
talking to them about the things that he needs that he's not getting right now.
How about at this point, he is very anxious, so he said he doesn't need anything. So if the child doesn't have any services, but I want to stay in the regional center just in case after school, after college, maybe he need it, can we stay or we have to get out if they don't have any services at this point?
So talk to your service coordinator, because you can start with things like respite care, so you get a break, and then look at so there are so many other things that they can options that they might have for them. So again, that anxiety piece can be a need right there. So what's the anxiety? Is it preventing him from going out into the community? Are there things that could support him so he could go, so think about all the things that is preventing, that his disability is preventing from happening, and that's where you're going to start building those needs. Your person-centered plan is going to be really key here, because that person is going to sit with you and talk about like what his hopes and dreams, what he wants to do, and what supports and services he's going to need in order to get there. And that's really going to help tease out those unmet needs, and what services they should be providing.
I see. And respite, he is high functioning. And then it doesn't matter whether the child high functioning or not. Respite is for me, right? Not for the child.
Right. So if you need a break, then you can ask for respite. Say, I need a break. So
Okay,
yes,
it doesn't matter. Like they
right.
will say, "Oh, your kid is high functioning. It's not bothering you." So it's not for the kids, right? For me.
It's for you to get a break.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Sure. Oh, oops, it muted.
Okay.
Oh.
Last one. In the IPP meeting, did the child have to be attend or I can represent him? He always doesn't want to attend the meeting.
He doesn't have to attend. A lot of times, like my son didn't like to attend either. I would usually just have him pop in and say hello, because the service coordinators often want to see them at least. But then my son would like wander off. He didn't want to participate. He's like, I don't want to hear this. So,
Okay. Thank you.
sure. So we have a question from Michelle at 433. Hello, we are in SDP. We're looking for an autism assistant service dog or an emotional support dog. Anyone know what the limitations are? Well, we actually kind of have an expert on our staff. I'm going to let Tina answer this one.
Well, I mean, it sort of depends on what your needs are. I have a service dog, and I got it with the help of my self-determination plan. Um, I had to obtain the dog myself, and then they're paying for me to take him through the PetSmart program to get the training we need. And I'm just honest with my teacher, and I tell the teacher what I need the dog to do, and she's working with me to get him trained. We're going through classes, group classes, but when he's finished the group classes, I'll have some one-on-one time with the teacher to work out the more specific things that we need him to do. I recommend familiarizing yourself with service dog laws, not just the federal ADA laws, but the California state laws, because there are protections in the California state law that are not in the ADA law. For example, a service dog in training has the same rights as one that's already trained, and a lot of people don't know that. My dog is not finished with his training, but from the very beginning, he's gone with me everywhere, because you can't train a dog in a vacuum. But you also have to remember that every regional center is different, and I can only tell you what my regional center does. I can't tell you what the other regional centers do. I did have to have a letter from my doctor stating that the doctor felt that I need the dog, and we went from there. Once I had that letter, I took it to the CSC, and we proceeded from that point. I hope I answered your question.
And she has the cutest partner in crime, Buddy. He's adorable.
He's
And
gigantic, though. He's a
and he
very
is
big dog.
gigantic. Yeah, he keeps growing on us. We're like,
He
what?
does. He's getting bigger and bigger all the time.
So Miriam, go ahead.
Hi. My son also has a service dog, and there is a fairly recent hearing decision that training of a service dog cannot be covered under SDP. So I don't know, your regional center might have given you an exception, and you said every regional center is different, but there is a hearing decision not allowing training of a service dog. The language states that you can purchase a trained service dog, and service dog expenses can be paid. So if you do have a service dog, all the expenses, insurance, food can be paid from the spending plan. No money will be added to the budget though. And an emotional support dog is not included. It has to be a service dog.
Yeah, emotional support dog's something completely different. It's actually considered a pet. So
Correct.
yes. But my regional center has paid for my dog's training, but um we did it like you have to remember to think outside the box. There's always ways around things in the system. We requested training of the service dog as part of my what do you call it? Community integration. So it's part of being in the community, going to the training classes for the dog. So you have to remember how you ask for things, how you word things actually makes a really big difference.
I just don't want to give false hope. A lot of people want service dogs, and I know a lot of people who've been turned down, for that reason, and there is a hearing. Um, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it won't be easy.
I'll
There
also
are there are also organizations that you can turn to if you aren't able to train your own dog. The ADA law protects you if you choose to train your own dog, but not everyone is able to do that. And there are organizations you can go to, like uh, there are organizations out there like Canine Companions and several others. So I mean, don't give up if your regional center turns you down. I would fight them. I mean, I've been known to do that. I would appeal that decision. If they said no. If you have a doctor's note that says that that's something you need, then that's something you need, plain and simple. So, I mean, I would fight that, but um, yeah, don't give up. Just keep looking until you get your needs met.
So my son had a service dog when he was younger. He's 22 now. And we went through an organization. There was a significant waiting list, and um, some of the organizations require that you fundraise to help pay for it. That it may not cost you personally anything, but they do require you to fundraise. And so they do kind of like a GoFundMe kind of a thing. And so uh, and so it's out there. It is another option to look at. Um, so Ken at 440 put, will there be a recording of the sessions for those that can't attend the equity conference? Um, Gilda, that is a question for you. Are you available?
Hi, yes, so we are checking with the Endowment Center to see if we can record sessions. So I will have to get back to Ken on that. So we're looking into.
So Miriam, your hand was up. Did you have another question, or was it up from before?
From before, I'm done.
Oh,
Thank you.
no worries. Hi, Lisa, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Hi. So I'll try to be as succinct as possible. I'm having a really significant issue or problem with Mainzel. And I guess my first question is a 4731 complaint how you notify DDS of something going on with an FMS? As fast as I can share, I have 3 children in SDP. 1 is an adult, 2 are minors. And as you know, they're making everyone go to Seoul. And after consulting with an attorney and a CPA and getting EPLI and doing all of these things, we came up with a big issue around the EIN number. They would not allow it to go to the kids. My adult who's living a self-determined life does not want to be responsible for his siblings, which I honor and respect. Mainzel has told me in writing that the EIN can't be in my name because I'm a business owner and I already have an EIN, which I'm being told is incorrect by CPAs. And actually, I own 3 businesses and have 3 EINs. And I'm being told by CPAs and attorneys I can have as many EINs as I want, as long as I keep them separate. Mainzel is saying absolutely not. It will convert my other businesses to household employees and recommended in writing that I close my businesses and thus become homeless because I'll be unemployed. So we put it in my husband's name, thinking that was a solution, but he works for our adult son. So they said that's not possible. Even though I work for myself, I have an EIN, I run payroll and I get paid in my business. And basically they're throwing their hands up and saying, nothing we can do for you. And my kids lose all services in 2 weeks. My employees will be unemployed. And I am very frustrated. Sorry, you guys, I'm going to cry, and some of my clients are in here. So I'm a mom just like you guys.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Lisa.
And I don't know what to do. I mean, they're wrong. They're wrong. If you talk to the IRS, if you talk to a CPA, if you talk to an attorney, you can have multiple EINs. And they're flat out saying, nope, can't do it. And they literally told me today that I should close my businesses if it's so important to me to keep my employees.
Oh my God.
So I need to know where to go. I was thinking it's a 4731, but they're a private business, right? But that won't fix my problem in 2 weeks. And I can't get to a new FMS in 2 weeks.
Right. So first thing first, get the ombudsperson's office involved because they will help with that. So you're not going to have a gap in service. So that's really, really key. And I need you to know this is on our radar. It's something that Judy and I have been talking extensively about. In fact, we were just doing a one-pager exactly on this issue of they cannot force so to begin with, what Mainzel is saying is it's not them saying that children can't have an EIN.
I'm actually okay for my situation with that. I mean, you're right,
right.
but I'm actually fine with that. My problem is
Then
I
who is
want to
it going to
be
be? Right.
like
Then who is it going to be? Right.
I can be it, but they're saying that
Right.
my other businesses have to be closed. I can't have other EINs.
Right. Which is incorrect. So we know that's incorrect. We also know with the children having it is so federally you can be a child and have an EIN. We know in the state there is nothing that prevents a minor from having their own business statewide. There's nothing that prohibits that, and that's kind of what we've been discussing and arguing with them. They have made this specific rule, and so it is actually the Social Security office, which is saying they won't do the state number for them. That's where they're getting stuck. So they're the ones, and so it is on our radar. Again, we're not going to fix it in 2 weeks. You're not going to fix this in 2 weeks. So absolutely get the ombudsperson's office, explain to them, you are literally going to run out of time. They're going to have to put an extension. They're going to have to find a way to continue on until that can be resolved. And so, and then also I would say, at that point, I would consider looking at another FMS because this is going to be an ongoing issue. Judy, perfect timing. Do you want to jump in here too?
Hi, everybody. I'm so sorry that I've been listening the whole time and I'm late because I was at this master plan meeting in person and had to drive to my hotel. So, first of all, I just want to say to the parent, I didn't catch your name. What was the
It's
parent's name?
Lisa.
Lisa, I am so sorry that you're going through this. This is not right. And so like we will try to do what we can to be helpful by lifting up your story to others. I guess my question, Lisa, is who have you already asked for help? Have you asked the
Okay, so I'm going to embarrass myself because I'm an education advocate. I should know better, but this is why advocates choose advocates. I went a little crazy. Luckily, I didn't say anything inappropriate, but I have emailed DVU. I have emailed the ombudsman. I have emailed every FMS except 2 that I'm willing to work with North LA. So that's all but 2. I have emailed I'm not going to say her name, but it's the head of North LA's SDP department. I kind of went crazy today and I emailed, my son is on the local advisory committee as a self-advocate. And he's actually now going to reach out to Chris Arroyo and ask if he has to recuse himself from the next meeting because I'm going to go in and make some public comments. Like I've reached out to another self-advisory committee member who happens to be on this call, who's with another regional center. So I basically blasted the world and I'm ready to go to the media next, but I'm not the right person to do that because I'm too emotional about it and I won't make a good case. But I'm really emotional about it because I'm going to lose my employees and getting them back isn't that easy. You know that. We can't find people to work with our kids as it is. So I've gone everywhere that I could go today.
So you did call the ombudsperson's office?
I have emailed them.
Okay. You can also call them.
Okay, I'll do that tomorrow.
And I'm happy to private message you some other folks at DDS for you to email directly. I'm not going to put it generally in the chat because I don't want everybody to email. It's really these extreme cases. I also would try to reach the executive director of your regional center, whom I know is very new, but still, I mean, this has got to go to the highest.
I'm making a face because August 22nd, I requested an IPP meeting for my middle son who was sitting home doing nothing since he graduated from high school. and I've been unable to get an IPP meeting. So I filed a 4731. So I'm actually on her radar because as of today, I still don't have an IPP meeting. So I know exactly who that is.
So I'll private message you in the chat, Lisa, and see what we can do to be helpful, okay?
Okay, thank you.
I want to remind everybody that there's more than one ombudsperson you can contact. There is an ombudsperson at your regional center, but I've always found it most effective to actually go straight to the ombudsperson's office at DDS. I never have once been ignored by them.
So Tiffany C at 449 said, "Hi, is it better to work with IF that is in the same regional center, or if another IF from another regional center has more experience, would that be better? Thank you." So most IFs will work with a few regional centers, some as they're learning. So as long as they are familiar with the program and they do know your area and they, know your regional center, I think that you would be fine with either one. So it's okay if you have somebody who is more experienced that you would like to work with, they should be fine with that regional center. So I would say both. So I'm giving you a non-answer. Sally, go ahead and unmute.
Hi there.
Hi, Sally.
So I feel funny because my questions are much smaller than Lisa's, and I'm really touched by Lisa's situation because I have more than one business and am my daughter's provider of record, and yeah, oof, I don't know where they're coming up with these made up things. So one of the things that we are in the process of renewing for our second year, we are, what's today, the 9th? We're 22 days out from our renewal. I started this process in August and we are stuck and I'm not very happy. But one of the, there are three things that came up that I'm trying to navigate with for our new budget. One of them was that my daughter enjoys going to all different kinds of museums, and we were told by the regional center that the new guidelines say that museums aren't covered because it's not interactive. And today I was able to make a case to a higher up in our regional center that indeed they are interactive for my daughter and part of her community integration, et cetera. So I still haven't gotten a final answer. Has that come up for people? That's question number one, in terms of like all of a sudden they're saying like you can't just do something recreationally, it has to be interactive. And that seems very loose when I read the guidelines, open to interpretation. I've now had one person tell me, one worker say no, and then somebody higher up said yes.
So I can tell you, I can guess which regional center you're with. And I saw their list of allowable and not allowable, right? And I had the same question is, so they'll say if it's an interactive museum, like you can touch stuff, it's covered. But if you just look at it, that it's not covered. I'm like, well, that is really splitting hairs. Judy, I don't know if you'd heard about this one yet. I was just like, so that it's an interesting question, and for the social rec piece, I think that again, this is where each regional center is making up. I lovingly call them shadow rules. Like each of them make up these rules, like based on like what are you basing this law on? And so you're doing the exact right thing, which is taking it up the food chain and asking questions and trying to find out what's going on with this. And I know you are not the only person that is asking these same questions, that this is definitely an issue at your regional center. And there was another question in there of, just so you know, you and I are in the same boat. My son is doing his year 4 rollover right now, starting November 1st, turned in our person-centered plan in August, and we do not have a budget or a spending plan yet. So that's just the pressures in our life, right? So Maria K at 4:55 said, our IF was dismissed by Regional Center with their promise that they will make an exception and fund another IF. Meanwhile, we have moved to different regional center. Can a new regional center will pay for the IF services if the client still needs IF services? I have a question about this, Maria, and I don't know if you can unmute, but can you give me more explanation what you mean by dismissed by the regional center? I'm not sure. Let me see if I can see you in the, so we can ask you to unmute. It's Maria K, if anybody.
Yeah,
He's
so
unmuted.
Oh, there you
yeah, hi. My independent facilitator sent me email suddenly saying that she is withdrawing, and she did say she assured me that regional center will make exception and regional center will pay for another IF. Meanwhile, I had to move from that regional center to another one, and now I'm trying to get into SDP. I moved to a different regional center in April 2024.
Mhm.
And I did tell that I would like to transition into SDP because we are trying to do this since 2022.
Mm.
And now, after 6 months, after I sent so many emails, they agreed that they will have a meeting, IPP meeting. They said, we're going to have a meeting, greet and meet. And I'm kind of surprised that after 6 months, they'll make a meeting to greet and meet us. And looks like it is going to be delayed again. But again, I asked if I get IF, I did ask if they can pay for first year SDP. And that they did not say, it seems they said no. The answer was no. So I want to ask here, we did not have any SDP first year. And I know that RC pay for first year SDP. How do I go around this?
So you're not in self-determination program yet, correct?
No.
Okay. So I think so my favorite thing with regional center is if you ask just a little bit wrong, they will deny you because we don't always know how to ask for something. So I think when you asked for the IF in the first year, so in self-determination program, they will not fund for independent facilitations in your first year. What you're asking for is transition supports. So make sure that when you're asking for the self-determination program, say, I need transition supports. So that they could be why they're confusing what you're asking for. So that's really key. Also, keep in mind that there are time limits in the traditional system. So if you request an IPP in writing, they have 30 days to meet with you. So anybody on the call, if they're not meeting with you, request an IPP in writing and that starts the clock. And if they don't meet with you after that, then you can file a 4731 saying they are not following the law. So so that is a way to stay on top of them so they don't kind of ignore you. So I hope, did that answer your question? So they should pay for your transition services.
Okay, so again, the terminologies for transition support, you said?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. How do we say, I find some activities, but I would like to put some of them in community integration services, some of them recreational. What is a definition of, between them?
So do you have an independent facilitator to work with now that you have in mind?
Yes, I do.
Oh, perfect. So when you do your person-centered plan, that's really going to help you determine what they want to do, and when they describe what they want to do, then your IF can kind of help you put it in the right categories. That will really, your person-centered plan is the roadmap for what your self-determination program is going to look like. So they'll be able to totally help you with that.
My first IF already finished, completed the PCP budget and spending plan.
Mhm.
This second IF has to modify it because it wasn't reviewed for 2 years now.
Okay.
And I just I would like to transition in November 1st. Is it possible to do that when I have everything, but I just need a little bit modification now in my in the spending plan?
But if you don't have, well, one, probably not going to happen November 1st because you will have to find a financial management service and they have to get the authorizations over to them. Most of them want it by the 15th. And so I don't think there's any way that's going to happen between now. I would actually be thinking a couple months if you even if you, so you're going to have to get your budget and your spending plan signed. Once you have that, you can find your financial management service and that'll take a little bit of time to get set up as well.
Okay. Is
So
there a cap to how many recreational activities the client can get?
so in the budget, how much they'll pay for in the budget will be dependent on the traditional system regional centers purchase of service standards. They can have a rule on it. How you want to spend it in the spending plan. You could spend all of your money on recreational if it meets the goals that you have set. So those purchase of service standards don't apply to self-determination. So
Okay.
think of your budget as a total dollar amount, and then when you get to the spending plan side, then you'll be able to pick how you want to spend it.
Okay. I have a last question. Can I put SDP or TVD in the budget and spending plan?
Yes. So one of the things that, and we get pushback, I'll tell you, from some regional centers, from some financial management services. If you look at the DDS website online, they have a section called Frequently Asked Questions, FAQs. In that, it clearly states you do not have to know who the provider is. You need to just on your spending plan describe the type of service that you want, but you don't have to put a specific service name.
That is the budget and spending plan?
That's in the spending plan. In the budget, so let's say they're asking you if you want to have money for a social skills program, they might say, give me a copy of the social skills program so you know how much money to put in for it. Now, you're not required to use that one once you get into spending, into your self-determination program. That's just to determine your budget.
Okay. Thank you so much, Christiana.
Oh, you're very welcome, Maria. Judy, go ahead.
To move on, could you just spend a few minutes talking about the question that was asked? Do you think we could get in by November 1st? Because I hear this, I read this on Facebook all the time, where people say, "Oh yeah, I'm going in on November 1st or on October 1st or whatever," and they don't even have anything that they need to go in. And so maybe you could just spend a few minutes to make sure people understand this.
I want to have to make sure everybody has realistic expectations when it comes to transitions. If you were starting today and you have nothing, I would expect 9 months. It can happen in a shorter period of time, but 9 months seems to be about the length of time it's taking to get in. If you have no services at all right now when you're going in and you're going to be asking for new services, that's what tends to take a lot of the time to build that budget because you might have assessments that need to be done and all of that. So in order to typically transition in, we kind of just talked about this. Most of the financial management services want you to have a signed budget and spending plan before they'll even kind of meet with you. And at that point, you have to start signing up your people. So if you have current services and current people you want to continue working so you don't have a gap in service, you've got to get them signed up. And that takes some time. And so just kind of know along the way, this is something that is going to take some time to get in. And I do want to remind you, it's been a long time for me since my son got into the traditional system. But I want to say when we first applied, it took at least 9, 10 months. So do remember, we're in the traditional system. This is the pace that they run. I wish it could be faster. I wish it could be smoother. It is something we are working really hard at DVU to try to make this smoother, easier process. But for right now, to be realistic, plan at least a good 9 months. Judy, before we take the rest of the questions, I have had lots of questions about, so what does it mean that 1147 passed? And also, what does it mean that SB 1281 did it? What happens now?
Oh, those are great questions. So we'll start with the happy news of AB 1147 passing. This was a long, hard fought effort, as Christiana said. And the bill started back in January of 2023, and it was very large and very comprehensive. And it was a really amazing bill. If you ever go on, I'll put the link to the website about the bill so that you can go and you can read the history of it and see the very first bill, because it was pretty amazing. Most of it, 95% of it, got stripped out for various reasons. What was remaining was 3 provisions, and I'll start with the smaller ones. The first provision is that regional centers must now have 2 conflict of interest provisions that they must establish by January 1st, so in the next few months. So the first one is they have to create what's called an anti-nepotism rule. And nepotism means when people hire their family to work in their business. If it's a private business, there's no restrictions on that. But when these are exclusively taxpayer funded agencies. So there has to be some rules about whether people, certainly in the executive offices, the executive director, the deputy executive director, should not be able to hire their spouses, their children, their brothers, their sisters to work at the regional center, because obviously creates a conflict of interest, right? Because let's say you're the executive director and you hire your wife gets hired to work at the regional center as a service coordinator. And then the person who supervises that service coordinator is going to feel very uncomfortable supervising the wife of the executive director. So, so we have to eliminate that. So that yay got passed. The second conflict of interest is that we have restricted gifts to all regional center staff to no more than $15 per year. And so what that means is that no longer can service providers buy service coordinators or other staff really expensive gifts for Christmas or for a thank you, which can obviously highly influence that individual to steer business toward that service provider. You should know that in the state government, so you should know this entire bill was about making regional centers more like state government agencies and to make them accountable like state government agencies. So in state government, there is an anti-nepotism rule, and there is also a no gifts rule. So we've just aligned regional centers to state requirements. The third major provision of the bill is subjecting the regional centers to the Public Records Act. And that definitely squarely puts regional centers in the realm of a public agency. And the Public Records Act allows any individual, any organization, a research institute like a college, to request data from the regional centers or specific kinds of non-private information that would be normally made public, and they can request that information. So for example, it might be you would like to get data from the regional center about the average levels of respite provided by race and ethnicity at your regional center. Or you would like to get data on the number of people who live, the number of adults who get supported living 24 hours a day by race and ethnicity to see if there are differences by race. But you could also get specific information that's non-private. So what you cannot do is say, I would like to go and get Judy Mark's son IPP. Like, no, you cannot do that. That is private information. But what you can do is say this specific service provider in the traditional system has a contract with the regional center, and I would like to read their contract, because that contract should be public information, and you should be able to see how much are the rates that they're getting paid. Are there any special provisions in that contract? So we're very excited about this provision. This provision does not go into effect until January 1st, 2026. So we have well over a year that we're providing to regional centers to get ready to be able to implement this, because they don't know how to respond to these kinds of requests. So we're giving them a year. So what we're going to do is, at least initially for the two smaller conflict of interest provisions, we're going to be monitoring whether regional centers have actually put into place measures to reduce those conflicts of interest. So starting January 1st, we're going to be asking each regional center to show us their policies. When the Public Records Act comes into effect in January, I'm sure we'll have some things that we're going to want to ask, but that's not our goal. Our goal is not to flood regional centers with PRA requests. Our goal is to make sure that if others are asking for information, that information is being provided. So now let's move on to the sad news of Senate Bill 1281 getting vetoed. So this bill, if any, you can find it on our website, all the recordings where we talked about it many times. This amazing bill significantly reduced barriers to the self-determination program. And the bill was vetoed by the governor, and the governor sent a message, like a letter, which I will put in the chat, the veto message, unless somebody can find it easily, I will put it in the chat, which basically says, I agree with your ideas to break down the barriers to the self-determination program. However, there is a process going on called the master plan process, which is the meeting that I just spent the day at, where they're going to be looking at various improvements to the developmental disability system, including to the self-determination program. And so you should be talking about it through that context. But what I can say to you is, ironically, at the meeting today on the master plan, there was a whole section this morning where the head of the master plan was saying, listen, we don't have to wait. Like, we don't have to wait till the whole master plan is done, till everything's, we're finishing it up in March or April. We don't have to wait for that. There are things we can do right away, which I found to be very ironic, since this is something that governor and the legislature could have done right away to improve things. Thank you, Michaela. The veto statement is in the chat. So the other thing you should know is that the master plan has basically not even talked about the self-determination program in all of its meetings. There's been many, many, many hours of meetings among the master plan, and the self-determination program is almost never on the agenda. The only time it's brought up is because Christiana and Tina are constantly bringing it up in the public comments, and so many other particularly amazing Latino parents are bringing it up in public comment. But other than that, by the powers that be who run the master plan, they never talk about the self-determination program. Today, it was not talked about the entire day. So it is very frustrating to me, but I'll tell you this, like, where can we go from here? I told the new director, who's a really great guy, Pete Chervinka, the new DDS director, that if this bill got vetoed, that I would be a thorn in his side until these provisions were implemented. because we do not need to pass a law to make these changes. These changes can happen through directives coming from DDS. And so I will be the thorn in his side. I told him that again today when I saw him. And so we will continue to advocate, and we will work with all of you to advocate, and we will also work with our local volunteer advisory committees to advocate for these changes. So I hope that was helpful. And I just want to say, somebody put something in the chat asking me about my earrings. Thank you for noticing my DVU earrings. So this is a symbol, as you can tell, of DVU, and these earrings were made by a young man who is in the self-determination program, who created through the SDP a micro enterprise that makes jewelry and lots of other kinds of objects through a 3D printer. And he made these for me, and I love them. I also have some keychains and other DVU merch. And so, yes, this is what the STB can do, is it can create these projects.
That's so awesome. I'll look and see if I can find his contact. If anybody's interested, you guys can contact him. Sally, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I have another question about, this is regarding, getting occupational therapy and speech therapy covered. So we let that go last year, but we are trying again. And of course, we understand that they what they keep telling us at the regional centers, that they have to have denials because regional center is payer of last resort. So we understand that. My daughter has Medi-Cal, and so I contacted the provider that manages Medi-Cal in our county. I asked for every single OT and speech therapy provider for the entire county. I contacted every single speech provider, which was quite a few. There was only 2 OTs, so that was easy. Either I got no response, told that they only cover people under 22. My daughter's 24. So essentially I have denials. And this is what I'm providing for them, is this long list of denials. They haven't even gotten to that part of our spending plan in our negotiations back and forth. I'm predicting they're going to say that that doesn't qualify as a denial, but that is the denial. So I'm just curious if anybody has experience with that or can address that. Thank you.
So you can ask for something called gap funding. And that means, well, even though Medi-Cal could potentially pay for it, they don't have anybody available to do it right now. And the fact that you have this long list of all the things that you've tried, you can say, we need you to pay it until somebody becomes available. So that's what I would be requesting right now, gap funding. So I hope that helps. Maria at 513 said, I would like to ask if we can put the amusement park ticket for 1-to-1 on the spending plan. Our RC agreed to it in the first and second year, but is not allowing it in the third year. Maria, this is a common question and a common argument we're getting from regional centers. Yes, they can pay for the one-on-one for the amusement park. Now, what I'm hearing them say is, because of ADA, that the amusement parks should let the person in, the aid in. And so I've even heard regional centers say, we'll write a letter saying they have to have this aid, so then they have to let them in. I think that there is definitely, you are creating a unrealistic barrier, because I got to tell you, if my son had to wait for a long line for you could produce this letter to see if maybe they could get in and maybe they couldn't. I cannot even imagine what would have occurred if they said at the end of this, well, the one-on-one can't get in, and now this is completely inaccessible for my son. So I would say, I think there is an extremely good argument that the supports should absolutely be paid. The cost of the support person's ticket should be paid. Do you want to add anything to that,
So
Judy?
yeah, I can. So when the original directive came out, which specifically prohibited amusement, it wasn't amusement parks, but it was like things for pure recreation, like an amusement park, prohibiting that. It's because a lot of people were putting Disneyland like annual passes in it. When that directive came out, I was speaking to then director of DDS, Nancy Bargeman, about it. And what she told me was very specific, that she said, this directive does not prohibit aides from getting their admission paid. And the reason why is because for her, it was very important that people in the self-determination program were treated the same as people in the traditional system. So folks should know that if you go to a day program and that day program decides to go to an amusement park for the day with their group, the amusement park tickets for the staff are paid for and billed to the regional center. So why is it any different for people in the SDP? Now, the amusement park tickets for their clients, that had to be paid private. So for those of you who are facing this at specific regional centers, tell them that the director of DDS specifically said that this was allowed. That if an individual cannot go independently to an amusement park and they must have support, that just like in the traditional system, you should be allowed to pay for.
So Laxmi at 502 asked, I live in Virginia. I got CIDP 2 years ago. Now I'm 45 years old. I'm physically disabled, but can use a walker to walk. I'm unemployed. Any suggestions, please? Laxmi, I'm afraid that my expertise is really limited to California and California's self-determination program. I'm really sorry. I'm not familiar with Virginia at all. I wish that I could provide more help for you. Um, Irene at 503 said, hello, this is Sultana from Peace Living LLC. I applied for self-determination 099 in February and received a letter of primary approval. However, I've been waiting for the vendor number from DDS. When I called the North LA CRC, they told me it would be next month or the month after. They mentioned that I should have received the vendor number for self-determination last month. Do you have any advice for me? So typically the vendor numbers don't come from DDS. The vendor numbers come from the regional center that you are vendoring with. They will provide the vendor number to you. So it would be North LA Regional Center that would be the one who has to get that you onboarded with for their 099. It says they mentioned that I should have received the vendor number last month. Do you have any advice for me? I would say I would reach out to the person who is in charge of the self-determination program, the manager there at North LA, and see if they can nudge the vendor along. Sometimes the participant choice specialists can reach out to the right person and find out what's going on and see what happened. So that would be my suggestion. It is taking them a while for vendoring. I've heard that both for just the primary vendor and also for courtesy vendors, that it does take them a long time to do it. Areli at 503 said, if there's more than one DDS ombudsman, please share the name, because in my case, the DDS ombudsman didn't help at all to find or get a solution. So there's actually two different ombudsman's offices. One is specifically for self-determination program, and one is for DDS. So make sure you're going to the correct office. So if it's around self-determination program, you want to make sure you get the SDP ombudsperson's office. Now, how much they will be able to solve your problem. They don't go to individual meetings. They don't provide advocacy, but so there's kind of they're limited in what they can do to assist. But I also find sometimes when I just start including them when I'm having a problem and I start including the ombudsperson in my emails, it gets the regional center moving. So sometimes that alone helps. The other key thing that ombudsperson's office does is they are taking data, and they do share that data with DDS when they're making the policies around the directives. And so knowing what problems are out there. So even if they can't solve your problem, it is a good idea to let the ombudsperson know you're having problems. We will put in the chat the 2 different ombuds offices for you to reach out to. So there are the 2. Oh, and I love this question. Simone at 506 said, "What do independent facilitators do?" And that made Judy laugh too. I would say a little bit of everything. So what their role is, there's a few roles independent facilitators do. They can be, when you're transitioning into the program, they can be your person-centered planner, the one who helps you develop your person-centered plan. They can be your self-directed supports, and that is the person who helps you transition into the self-determination program. So both of those are called transition supports. But the person who does those supports is usually called an independent facilitator. So that's why it gets a little confusing. And then once you're in the program, independent facilitators can help with the ongoing services. So let me talk about what the self-directed support. They're going to help you take your person-centered plan and the goals and ideas that you had in there and make sure that they're in the IPP. And that's really key because you can't put anything in your spending plan that doesn't have an IPP goal. They're going to help you with the budget as they're developing your budget. They can help you in that budget process if during your person-centered plan you found that you had an unmet need or change in circumstance, so they can help you identify kind of the traditional system services to meet those needs and help you work on building that budget. They'll help you develop your spending plan and find the services in your local neighborhood that are going to work for you. And they can help you find your financial management service, find the right one for you. And then they can help you onboard everybody at the financial management service and get ready to go for that transition. So then once you're in self-determination, they are now officially called independent facilitators. You don't have to use an independent facilitator once you're in the program. This is by choice. And they don't increase your budget to pay for independent facilitators. So you need to kind of consider that as you are putting them into your spending plan. But in that first year, I think it's very helpful to have an independent facilitator because there is a learning curve for self-determination and learning how your financial management service works. If you need to make adjustments to your spending plan, it's helpful to have that person who can help you navigate that system. And then also every year, you have to renew your budget and your spending plan and you'll hear there's kind of 2 different terms I hear called either rollover or redetermination. I've heard both terms used by regional centers. So that first one you do, it's helpful to have somebody who knows what they're doing to do it. So that is a very long answer to what do independent facilitators do. Judy, did you want to add anything?
No, you're the expert on this. Got it great.
And I want to say, they are independent and they should be helping give you all the information you need so you can make the decisions and so you can make your choices. So that's really important. So they're there to help you understand the program and get all the information you need. Franca, go ahead and unmute.
Sorry, I know probably this was addressed, but my son was making noise in the background. I was just trying to find out in terms of unmet needs, especially if I've reached out to the regional center, like my son's coordinator and even the supervisor about his unmet needs, and everybody's been quiet. I've sent a couple of emails, going to almost 2 months now. Like, what are the next steps to address that? Like, it just seems like they've been very slow about, upping me on what I need to do next so we can tackle those unmet needs.
First of all, I totally hear you with your son making noise in the background. Mine usually
I'm
is.
sorry.
I love it. No, it's totally fine. And to answer your question is, if you have unmet needs, send in writing a request for an IPP meeting to address unmet needs. Sometimes it helps if you list, these are the ones that I'm asking for too, in that request. The day you send that in writing, it starts 30 days. They have 30 days to hold that IPP meeting. And if they don't hold that meeting in the 30 days, you can file what's called a 4731 complaint because they are required to meet within that time. Here's the other piece that not everybody knows. If you don't come to a resolution at that IPP meeting, they have to hold a second one within 15 days to continue it on. So this is a good way to kind of hold them to a schedule to keep them moving. So, and I know it is a really common issue with the regional center is getting responses and keeping it going. And to be fair, I want to say that most of the service coordinators have enormously large caseloads. And so, giving them a little grace and a little patience goes a long way. So, I'm always firm, but polite. I'm always professional. So, and then stay on top of them. Don't sit around and wait for them. Give them nudges very politely and stay on top of it and send a lot of reminders. Manny at 518 said, "Can I get an email or contact info to connect you separately? I'm in mitigation with Regional Center and my IF left us in what is regarding tutoring denial notice of action." So Manny, I would love to help you, but I don't do independent cases through Disability Voices United. We are an organization that we work on systemic change, and so we do trainings and those kind of things. We don't do individual. But I do want to talk to you a little bit about the tutoring denial, which, man, this is a question I hear all the time. That it's up there with service dogs. Is tutoring is a very, very common thing where we hear a lot of questions for. So one of the things that I want you to consider, I don't know whether you're in self-determination program or not yet, but one of the things I want you to think about is it's so important what you call things in self-determination program. If you don't call it tutoring, and you can have somebody who comes, so I don't know what the tutoring is for, but let's say it's reading. You can have a personal assistant come and sit and read with your loved one. You can have somebody come and, so sometimes if you call it a specific thing, you get denied, but if we call it something else, it will work and it'll still meet their needs, right? It gets a little harder when you're talking about wanting to hire like a specific tutoring center. Then it gets a little bit more challenging because that is a specific thing. You do have to have school denials. But I will say, I would go and look at the directive that talks about the social rec, that talked about educational pieces. It is in there and they are required to provide it. And it is a DDS for regional center directive. And it came out and it's pretty like, hey, you guys need to provide these. So it is a good place if you are in going to litigation on it. That's a good one to look at and consider. Beth, I see a question from you. Hi, Beth. It's good to see you. At 518, not completely hypothetically, if the spouse of a regional center director works at the same regional center, do they need to resign in January?
Well, I answered it in the chat, and that is still unclear right now. So our bill did not specifically say whether a person would need to resign if they were already hired. So what happens when a law gets passed, any law in government, if the agencies that is responsible for implementing that law issues sort of guidance about that, the way it should be implemented. So in the DD system, if some law gets passed, then DDS has to say to regional centers, this is what you do about it. And so they could potentially, and I have a feeling that they will. I have actually not spoken to them about this issue at all, but I have a feeling that they would do what's called grandfather in. That's a term that maybe doesn't translate into either Spanish or Korean. So what grandfather in means is for groups that are already doing something that is now like illegal, they let you continue to do that because you were doing it before a law passed that prohibited it. So that's why it's possible that instead of saying, yeah, you have to go fire a person because they're a family member, they will just say, for the future, you cannot hire new family members. So that, if I had to guess, it's what they'll do, and probably we won't fight on it because we're not here to say, you know, people should be getting fired. We're here to say people shouldn't be getting hired in the first place. So, but honestly, I have had no conversations about it with anybody at DDS, and I don't even think they've had a chance to breathe yet to think about it.
Quick comment that William at 534 asked if there was information about gap funding, and William, I did put it in the chat for you. So it's there. Juan at 538 said, can personal care services be performed outside of California? No, you cannot spend self-determination program dollars outside of California, unfortunately. So what we see sometimes is like people who are college students who go out of the state and then come back in, they can use their self-determination program while they're here, but they cannot while they're out of state. And then as I'm saying it, I'm thinking of exceptions that have happened in my head. So not hard and fast when it comes to college students. I hear once in a while exceptions, but that as the general rule, that's the way it goes. Brenna at 539 said, I was told that the IF is paid for by the regional center and doesn't diminish client resources. So Brenna, the transition supports are paid for by the regional center, and so you don't have to worry about those at all. Once you're in the self-determination program, if you want to continue using an independent facilitator, they will not increase your budget for it. So it does come out of your that budget, and so it does impact your client resources. So what I will say is that independent facilitators are experts in what they do, and because of that, they charge a significant amount of money. And so make sure that in your spending plan, you have the right person doing the service. There may be things that an independent facilitator is doing that somebody else could do at a much more reasonable price. And a good example might be managing staff. So what I see a lot is that you have a group of staff and you pick one of them to be the staff manager, and they get paid more to manage the staff. And then if somebody's going to be out sick or whatever, they're the ones who they would contact and they could cover the hours. And so they're going to do that kind of thing. It's going to be much more economical for you to do it that way than to pay an independent facilitator. So just realize what you're paying for and what their expertise is, and make sure you're using the right person for the right job. Because it isn't paid for by the regional center. So Ji Su Yu at 540 said, do certain RCs talk about the budget and develop it during the IPP with the independent facilitator, or is the budget just sent to the IF and participant after the IPP that set the goals? Oh, this is a great question, G. That it depends 100% on the regional center. And I will tell you that there are some regional centers that don't even do the IPP until after you're in self-determination program a couple months later, which is a bit insane making because you can't have things in your spending plan that aren't in your IPP. So, but what I will tell you is some regional centers, I will say all of them will develop the beginning where you're going to start at kind of on their own and present it to you at either at a meeting or send it to you, in which case then the conversation starts of here's the person-centered plan, here are the unmet needs and all of those things. So I do have regional centers that will just send it to you, and then we have to call a meeting and say thank you for the budget, we need to meet now to talk about this. Some of them will automatically call a meeting, and some of them like sometimes in like rollover years when nothing changed, they will just give it to us and we won't have to have a meeting. So it just kind of depends on the situation. I realize I never give short, easy answers, do I? I want a question where I can just say yes or no. Let's see. Tomasa asked at 5:34, would children under the age of 18 also be charged for admission to theme parks with self-determination? So anybody who is the participant in self-determination has to pay for their own theme park admissions. So it doesn't matter what age they are. Self-determination program won't pay for theme park admissions. Now you may see, because lots of people go onto the Facebook page and there's lots of not so accurate information on there, that people will talk about, oh, I got theme park. It used to be possible. It isn't anymore. So if somebody talks about it, it could be that they did in the past, but they cannot now because DDS made it very clear that you cannot pay for theme parks in self-determination. Candace at 5:38 said, wait, so I'm in the transition to self-determination currently. I have traditional services. So you're saying regional center pays to take client to amusement park. Wow, regional center doesn't offer this info openly. I always hear from other parents. So regional centers don't pay to take the clients to amusement parks. Judy was talking about like day programs that attend, like part of the day program is they go to an amusement park. In which case the regional, like the regional center is paying for that vendored service and for their supports, but they're not paying for the person to go to the amusement park. Did I get that right, Judy?
Yeah. So first of all, regional centers don't pay for tickets in the traditional system to anything, ever, about anything. So remember, traditional system is they just pay to vendors. They don't pay for us. So, yeah, in the traditional system, if you belong to a day program or a social rec program where the program goes to an amusement park, the day program can bill the regional center for that expense. So because they're allowed to do that in the traditional system, they should be allowed to do it in the self-determination program. Honestly, that information was voluntarily provided to me by Nancy Bargman. I did not ask her that because I have to be honest with you all. Getting amusement park tickets paid for is not a priority for me or for our organization. We are here to get people supports so that you can be included in the community. And just generally, it's not about a specific ticket to an amusement park. And honestly, what I tell people is that you should try to be shifting as many of your costs onto the self-determination program as you can, so that if there is something that you cannot use self-determination funds for, you can afford to pay for it out of pocket. So I know so many parents who are paying out of pocket for so many things that could be paid for in the SDP. whether it's classes in the community, whether it's transportation to get to places. All of these things could be shifted into the SDP. So my feeling is you're fighting over a $100 ticket to Disneyland. It is not worth the amount of time that this person is spending to go to fair hearing over a $100 ticket to Disneyland is ridiculous. You should be fighting over the big stuff, and there's plenty of big stuff to be fighting about.
Well said. You're gonna love this one, Judy. Areli at 537 said, Judy, do we still have any future hope regarding the bill SB 1281 if the master plan doesn't include it? A collective protest march at the Capitol would be an option?
Well, we may get to that point. I hope we don't, but we may. You know, the thing about SB 1281, it was universally supported by everyone. All of the regional centers supported it. They want to break down those barriers. All of the service providers supported it. Like, we had universal support of this bill. And the fact that DDS recommend, so yes, the governor vetoed it, and it is the governor's decision. But you should know that the governor had thousands of bills that he had to rule on, whether he vetoed them or signed them, on a million different issues, and he could not become an expert on every single issue. So I have no anger toward the governor about this. The governor, for many bills that are very low profile, small bills like this one, he has to take recommendations from the departments or agencies that he works with that are under him. And so this was an example of DDS recommending to the governor to veto the bill. So why would DDS want to veto this bill? The reason why is because they don't want any laws passed telling them what to do. They want, kind of like a child, you don't tell me what to do, I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. Okay, fine. Just like you would say to a child, okay, you want to get up on the chair your way, or you want to turn on the TV your way, you 5-year-old or 3-year-old. So do it. So do it. So change the television channel, whatever you want to do, press that elevator button. But DDS isn't doing it. They aren't making these changes. The only reason why Christiana created a lot of the provisions of this bill was because DDS wasn't doing it. So we are now going to hold them to that. And I'm hoping that we will, with a new director at DDS, we will get them off their bums and they will get to work and make these changes.
So poor Pete isn't going to have one thorn in his side. He's going to have 108 thorns in his side. We just have a couple minutes left. Valdemitra, I'm going to let you ask the last question quickly.
Just going to answer real quickly. Is a stipend for transportation, non-medical transportation, is there somewhere I can find that it's okay to go through the self-determination program on the spending, or put it on the spending plan? Is there somewhere I can find something in writing
To to use transportation in the spending plan?
to have a stipend? Because I drive my daughter around everywhere because she's afraid to do that. So I drive her around everywhere. So all of my FMS have always allowed that, and I just want to know: is there something in writing that says that that's approved? So if anybody questions it,
So I don't. So what you would really be is like a personal assistant who's driving, right? And then
or
you get
her life coach that's driving,
and you get mileage. And so yes, and there is absolutely, like, if you look at the transportation description, it basically says you can do this, and they can hire somebody to do that. So that would be your written place that it can be done.
Okay, because I know that there's a code 338 and there's a 338M. One is for the employee, and then there's another one.
That's traditional though, right? That's not
Under the
SDP.
SDP.
338M? I've never heard of
338M and 338.
I've only heard of 338. So hey, I learn something new every day. That's a new one on me.
Yeah. Okay. All right, that's all I needed. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are right at 6 o'clock. I want to thank our interpreters so much. I know these are really hard connects because there's nonstop talking on it. So thank you so much to our amazing interpreters. And we will see everybody in 2 weeks. And hold on.